The sun hung low in the suburban sky, casting long shadows across the kitchen as I prepared dinner. The aroma of garlic and rosemary wafted through the air, mingling with the distant sounds of children playing outside. I could hear the laughter and shouts of joy, a stark contrast to the tension brewing in my own home. My heart raced as I thought about the conversation that lay ahead. My daughter Evelyn had dropped a bombshell, and I was still reeling from its impact. Just yesterday, she had revealed her outrageous demand for a wedding dress that cost more than my first car. I had been stunned into silence, the kind of silence that felt like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. "Mom, I need that dress. It's the only way to have the perfect wedding," she had insisted, her eyes wide with expectation. I could almost see the sparkle of entitlement in them. I had wanted to scream, to shake her and make her understand how unreasonable she was being, but instead I had simply nodded, caught between disbelief and a desperate need to maintain peace. At that family gathering, as Evelyn laid out her plans, I had felt the awkward laughter of relatives ripple through the room, their eyes darting between us. It was as if I had become the villain in my own story. I could see their judgment reflected in their expressions, and it twisted the knife of frustration deeper into my heart. How could they not see how wrong this was? I had spent years nurturing her, providing for her, and now she was treating me like I was disposable. I clenched my fists, feeling the warmth of the kitchen counter beneath my palms. It was a familiar sensation, one I had experienced countless times as I tried to navigate the complexities of motherhood. I thought of the sacrifices I had made, the late nights and early mornings, the endless support I had provided. I had always believed that love meant giving everything, but now I was faced with a daughter who seemed to believe that love meant getting everything. As I stirred the pot on the stove, my mind raced back to my own wedding day. I remembered the simple, elegant dress I had worn, how it had been a reflection of my love rather than a display of wealth. I had felt beautiful, not because of the price tag, but because of the love that surrounded me. I could not understand how Evelyn had become so lost in the materialistic ideals that seemed to dominate our society. Just as I was lost in my thoughts, David walked into the kitchen, his presence a comforting anchor amidst the storm. "How are you holding up?" he asked, concern etched on his face. His gentle voice cut through my spiraling emotions, and for a moment I felt the tension ease. "I just don't understand how she can ask for something so extravagant and expect me to comply, David. I don't want to be the bad guy here, but—" My voice trailed off, choked with unshed tears. David reached out, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You're not the bad guy, Michelle, you're her mother. You have to set boundaries, even if it hurts. You deserve respect, too." His words echoed in my mind, a reminder that standing my ground didn't mean I loved Evelyn any less. It meant I was trying to teach her the value of humility and gratitude, but the thought of confronting her again filled me with dread. I could already picture her face contorting in anger, the way her voice would rise in fury, accusing me of ruining her dreams. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the inevitable confrontation. I knew I had to be strong, not just for me but for her as well. I wanted to support her, but I refused to be exploited. This was a line I would not cross, no matter how much it hurt. The kitchen was a battlefield of emotions, filled with the rich scent of simmering tomato sauce and the faint, comforting smell of baked bread. The walls, painted a warm beige, seemed to close in on me as I stood at the counter, chopping vegetables while my mind spiraled into memories of better times. I could hear the distant laughter of children playing outside, a stark contrast to my own internal turmoil. My heart felt heavy, not just from the weight of the meal I was preparing, but from the weight of Evelyn's accusations that still echoed in my ears. I recalled the moment after the family gathering, when I had retreated to the kitchen, desperate for a moment alone. My hands trembled as I sliced through the vegetables, each cut mirroring the emotional turmoil I felt inside. The laughter of my relatives had faded, replaced by the oppressive silence of my thoughts. I could almost hear Evelyn's voice ringing in my ears, accusing me of ruining her wedding dreams. The frustration bubbled within me, and I fought back the tears that threatened to spill. The memory of Evelyn's demand still stung like a fresh wound. I had always prided myself on being a loving mother, but at that moment I felt anything but. "Mom, if you love me, you'll help me get the dress," she had said, her voice dripping with entitlement. It was as if she had forgotten all the sacrifices I had made for her, the countless hours I spent nurturing her dreams, only to have them thrown back in my face. I remembered the way her eyes had sparkled with expectation and how they dimmed the moment I said no. As I stirred the sauce, I thought about my own wedding day, the simplicity of my dress that had been a reflection of love, not wealth. I had walked down the aisle with a heart full of joy, not burdened by the pressures of societal expectations. It was a memory that felt like a different lifetime now, one where love was cherished over material possessions. I wondered how my daughter had strayed so far from that belief, consumed by the allure of perfection that came with a hefty price tag. David entered the kitchen, breaking my reverie. He leaned against the doorframe, concern etched on his face. "You're quiet, are you okay?" His voice was a gentle anchor in the storm of my thoughts. I looked up, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes, just thinking about Evelyn and how everything has changed. It feels like I'm losing her, David. I don't want to be the villain in her story, but I refuse to be a doormat. He stepped closer, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. You're not losing her, Michelle, you're teaching her a lesson. Sometimes love means saying no, even when it hurts. You deserve respect, too. His words struck a chord deep within me, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the sadness. I didn't want to be the bad guy. I wanted to be a guiding light, even if it meant standing firm against her demands. As I prepared dinner, I felt a mixture of sadness and resolve. I wanted to be seen as a loving mother, yet I also felt unappreciated for my efforts. I recalled the days when Evelyn would run to me with her problems, seeking my advice and comfort. Now it felt as if she viewed me as an obstacle, a hurdle in her quest for the perfect wedding. The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. I could almost feel it swirling around me, wrapping me in a cocoon of anxiety. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart as I focused on the task at hand. I had to find a way to bridge this growing chasm between us, to remind her of the love that had always been the foundation of our relationship. But the thought of confronting her again filled me with dread. I could already picture her face contorting in anger, the way her voice would rise in fury, accusing me of ruining her dreams. I steeled myself for the inevitable confrontation, knowing that I had to be strong, not just for me but for her as well. I wanted to support her, but I refused to be exploited. This was a line I would not cross, no matter how much it hurt. As I set the table, I felt the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. I longed for the days when our biggest disagreements were about what to watch on TV or which restaurant to visit. Now the stakes felt insurmountable, and I feared that the love we once shared was slipping through my fingers like sand. But I had to hold on, to believe that there was still a way to mend our fractured bond. The dining room was filled with the soft glow of candlelight, casting flickering shadows on the walls. I took a moment to breathe in the familiar sense of home, grounding myself in the present. I had to remember that love wasn't just about compliance. It was about teaching lessons, even if they were painful. And as I waited for Evelyn to arrive, I prepared myself for the difficult conversation that lay ahead, hoping that our love could withstand the test of time and circumstance. The evening air was thick with tension as I stood in the living room, the flickering light from the fireplace casting dancing shadows on the walls. It felt stifling, almost oppressive, and I couldn't shake the feeling of impending confrontation. The scent of burnt wood lingered in my nostrils, mingling with the faint aroma of the lasagna I'd prepared, a dish that had once been a family favorite now overshadowed by the rift growing between Evelyn and me. As I set the table, I couldn't help but replay the events of the past day in my mind. The way Evelyn had stormed out of the family gathering after I'd refused her demand for that extravagant wedding dress still stung. I could still hear her voice echoing in my ears, laced with entitlement and disappointment. "You're ruining everything, Mom. If you loved me, you'd help me." Her words had cut deeper than I wanted to admit, and the betrayal felt like a physical ache in my chest. I clenched my fists, feeling the smooth surface of the table beneath my palms, grounding myself in the moment as memories of happier times flickered in and out of my mind. I thought of the countless times I had sacrificed for her, the late nights I spent helping her with school projects, the weekends dedicated to her activities. I had always thought that love was about giving everything you could, but it seemed Evelyn had twisted that into a belief that love meant getting everything she desired. The thought made my stomach churn, and I sighed, feeling the weight of my choices bearing down on me. Just then, the door creaked open, and I turned to see Evelyn standing there, her face a mask of defiance. The light from the hallway framed her silhouette, making her look almost ethereal but also terribly out of place. My heart raced. The vulnerability I had felt earlier was replaced by a surge of anger. "I'm here to talk, Mom," she said, her voice steady, but I could see the storm brewing behind her eyes. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "Talk," I echoed, my words clipped. "You mean demand. Because that's what you did yesterday. You made a demand, not a request. You want a wedding dress that costs more than most people's car?" I felt the heat rise in my cheeks as I spoke, the frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. Evelyn's expression hardened, and I could see the familiar flicker of entitlement igniting in her eyes. "It's my wedding day, Mom. You're supposed to support me, not stand in my way." Her voice rose slightly, and I could feel my own heart pounding in response. I wanted to scream at her to wake up, to see how unreasonable she was being, but I forced myself to remain calm. Each word felt like a knife cutting deeper into the fabric of our relationship. "Support doesn't mean blind compliance, Evelyn," I shot back, my voice steady but my insides churning. "I have always supported you, but this is different. You're not just asking for a dress. You're asking me to compromise my values. I won't do it, I can't." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, each second amplifying the tension. Her eyes narrowed, and I could see her fists clenching at her sides. It was almost like watching a storm brew on the horizon, and I braced myself for the fallout. "You're being selfish," she finally exclaimed, her voice rising in anger. "You're only thinking about yourself and how you look to others. What about me? What about my happiness?" Her words felt like daggers, each one piercing through the fragile barrier I had built around my heart. I fought the urge to let my emotions spill over, to let her see just how much her words hurt me. "My happiness doesn't come from material things, Evelyn," I replied, my voice low but firm. "I want you to understand that love isn't about extravagant displays or costly items. It's about the bond we share, the memories we create. I want you to have a beautiful wedding, but not at the cost of our relationship. That dress will not define your happiness." She scoffed, the sound sharp and dismissive, and I felt a pang of disappointment. "You just don't get it, do you? You're stuck in your old ways and it's suffocating me." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I could see the resentment boiling over in her expression, and I fought the urge to retreat, to shield myself from her anger. "I'm trying to protect you, Evelyn," I exclaimed, despair creeping into my voice. "This is not how love works. It's about respect and understanding, and right now, I feel like you're throwing that all away for a dress." Her face contorted in disbelief, and I could see the hurt and anger colliding within her. "You're not even trying to understand my side? It's just a dress, Mom," she shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of her emotions, and I could see the tears brimming in her eyes. "It's not just a dress, Evelyn. It's a symbol of something more. It's about what you value and what you think love is." Each word felt like a battle cry, an attempt to reach her through the fog of entitlement that seemed to cloud her judgment. I didn't want to lose her, yet I felt the distance between us growing wider with every passing second. "You know what? Forget it," she spat, turning on her heel and storming out of the room. The door slammed behind her, reverberating through the silence that followed. I felt a rush of emotions crash over me: anger, sadness, betrayal, and a deep sense of loss. I sank into a nearby chair, my heart heavy with the weight of our argument. Hours passed in a blur as I tried to process the day's events. I could hear the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background, the sound of life continuing despite the chaos within me. I glanced at my phone, hoping for a message that would signal a truce, but there was nothing. Just as I was about to lose hope, a soft knock echoed through the house. I hesitated, my heart racing. Could it be Evelyn? I stood up slowly, my breath catching in my throat as I approached the door. With each step, I felt a mix of anxiety and hope, unsure of what lay on the other side. I opened the door to find her standing there, her eyes red and puffy, and a part of me softened at the sight. "Mom, she began, her voice trembling, but I could see the hesitation in her stance. "What is it, Evelyn?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady even as my heart raced with anticipation. "I'm sorry for how I reacted earlier. I was just so caught up in everything, and I didn't mean to lash out like that. I want my day to be special," she admitted, her words coming out in a rush. I felt a flicker of hope, but I knew this wasn't over. "I want that for you too, but it has to come from a place of understanding, not entitlement. I'm here to help you, but I need you to see my side as well." As she stood there, uncertainty flickering across her face, I realized that this conversation was only the beginning of a much longer journey toward healing. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of our shared history pressing in around us, and prepared myself for the difficult road ahead. I wanted to mend our relationship, to show her that love could withstand the trials we faced, even if it meant navigating the stormy waters of our conflicting desires. The morning light streamed through the window, illuminating the kitchen in soft yellow hues that felt almost mocking against the backdrop of my inner turmoil. I stood at the counter, the remnants of last night's dinner still lingering in the air, a reminder of the conflict that had erupted between Evelyn and me. The smell of burnt garlic clung to the walls, an unwelcome reminder of the tempest that had unfolded just hours before. My hands moved automatically, wiping down surfaces, but my mind was a cacophony of thoughts, each one louder than the last, echoing Evelyn's accusations. In the quiet of the kitchen, I felt the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. I thought of the conversation I had been dreading since the moment I told her no. How could I confront my daughter without triggering another explosion? The thought twisted my stomach in knots. I could still hear her voice in my ears, laced with disappointment, the words, "If you loved me, you would help me," ringing like a haunting refrain. Each repetition of those words felt like a dagger, piercing my resolve. I had to gather my thoughts, to articulate my stance without allowing emotions to dictate my words again. As I stood there, a memory surfaced, Evelyn as a child, twirling in her princess dress, her laughter filling the room with joy. The innocence of those days felt like a lifetime ago. In those moments, love was simple, untainted by expectations or material desires. Now the same girl stood before me, transformed by the weight of societal pressures and expectations, demanding a dress that symbolized everything I had been trying to teach her to avoid. I closed my eyes, willing the pain to dissipate. David entered the kitchen, his presence a calming force that I desperately needed. He leaned against the doorframe, concern etching lines on his face. "You look lost in thought." "What's going on in that head of yours?" he asked gently, his voice a soothing balm against my spiraling emotions. I sighed, running my fingers through my hair, feeling the tension pull at my shoulders. I need to confront Evelyn about her entitlement, but I'm terrified of what will happen next. I can't keep letting her walk all over me, but how do I do that without losing her completely? David stepped closer, his hand resting on my back, providing warmth in the chilly kitchen air. "You have to be honest with her, Michelle. It's tough, but sometimes love means setting boundaries, even if it hurts. You're not the villain in this story. You're her mother, and you have to be the one to guide her back to reality." His words resonated deep within me, igniting a flicker of determination. I had to stand my ground, to articulate the love I felt for her and how that love demanded respect, not just for me but for herself as well. I turned towards him, my heart racing with a newfound resolve. "You're right. I need to show her that this isn't just about the dress, it's about everything that comes with it, the values, the lessons, the love that should define her happiness, not a price tag." As I prepared myself for the upcoming conversation, I felt the tension coil in my stomach like a spring ready to snap. Each movement felt exaggerated, every sound amplified, the ticking clock on the wall, the creaking floor underfoot. I took a moment, breathing deeply, trying to steady my racing heart. But as I stood there, I couldn't shake the fear that this confrontation could irreparably change our relationship. Was I prepared for that? Later, as I paced the living room, I attempted to organize my thoughts. The light filtering through the curtains cast a warm glow, contrasting sharply with the chill in my heart. I thought of Evelyn's reaction when I'd refused her request, the fire in her eyes, the way her voice had risen in anger. I couldn't let that happen again. I had to approach this with calmness, with the authority that came from a place of love. Just then the doorbell rang, echoing through the silence like a gunshot. My pulse quickened. It had to be Evelyn. I opened the door slowly, and there she stood, her face a mixture of determination and vulnerability. The morning light caught the tears glistening in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crack. "We need to talk, Mom," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I nodded, stepping aside to let her in, my heart pounding in my chest as I closed the door behind her. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us, a palpable tension that suffocated the air. "I know I overreacted yesterday," she began, her gaze dropping to the floor. I want my wedding to be perfect, and I thought you would support me in that." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "Evelyn, supporting you doesn't mean I agree to everything you ask for, especially when it compromises our values. You have to understand that love isn't defined by how much money you spend. I want you to have the wedding of your dreams, but it has to be grounded in reality." Her expression shifted, frustration flaring up again. "But it's not just about the money, it's about the image, what people will think. You just don't get it." Her voice rose, the familiar tension creeping back into the room. I felt my own anger bubbling to the surface, but I knew I had to remain calm. "I do get it, Evelyn, I've been there, but I also know that the most beautiful weddings don't come from extravagant spending, they come from love and connection. You need to remember that, not just today, but for the rest of your life." For a moment, silence enveloped us, thick and heavy. I could see the conflict swirling in her eyes, and my heart ached for her. I wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap that had widened between us. "I'm here for you, and I always will be, but I won't support you in this notion that love is tied to how much you spend for one day. It's so much more than that." As the reality of my words settled between us, I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. The tension in the room began to ease, replaced by the realization that our love was worth fighting for, even if it meant confronting uncomfortable truths. I hoped this was the turning point, the moment that would lead us back to each other, back to a place where love defined our actions, not expectations. With that thought, I felt a sense of resolution wash over me as I prepared to navigate the complexities of our relationship. I was ready to fight for the love we had built together, even if it meant facing the storm head-on. The afternoon sun draped itself over the park like a warm blanket, casting a golden hue on the lush green grass beneath my feet. I watched as children played, their laughter ringing through the air, a stark contrast to the heaviness that lingered in my heart. David and I had suggested a family meeting here, hoping the serene environment might help ease the tension that had built between Evelyn and me. I could feel my heart racing, a drum echoing in my ears as I thought about what was to come. As we settled onto a weathered wooden bench, I felt the rough texture beneath my fingers, grounding me amidst the whirlwind of emotions. David sat beside me, his warm presence a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone. "You've got this, Michelle," he whispered, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. I could sense his unwavering support, even as my mind swirled with doubts about whether Evelyn would even show up. Moments later, I spotted her approaching, her silhouette framed by the light filtering through the trees. The way she walked, head held high yet shadows dancing across her face, told me she was still torn. My heart ached at the sight of her, the daughter I loved yet felt so distant from. I took a deep breath, feeling the familiar weight of anxiety settle in my chest. Could we truly mend what had been broken? Hey, she said, her voice soft but guarded. I noticed how she avoided my gaze, a clear reflection of the walls she had built since our last confrontation. I wanted to reach out, to pull her into a hug and erase the hurt that lay between us, but I knew that wouldn't suffice. We needed to talk to really talk. Thank you for coming, I managed to say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I could feel David's presence beside me, a silent assurance that I was doing the right thing. I know things have been difficult, but I want us to find a way back to each other. Evelyn shifted her weight, biting her lip as she considered my words. I just don't understand why you won't support me, Mom. It's my wedding and I thought you'd be on my side, she replied, her frustration bubbling to the surface. I could hear the hurt in her tone and it pierced through me like an arrow. I do support you, but not blindly, I countered gently. Supporting you doesn't mean I agree with every demand. I want to help you plan a beautiful wedding, but it has to come from a place of love, not entitlement. I paused, letting my words sink in. The air between us felt charged, heavy with unfinished business. Evelyn crossed her arms, a defensive posture that made my heart sink. You just don't get what it means to me. It's not just about the dress. It's about the image, the belief that my wedding can be perfect, she said, her voice rising again. I could see the fire in her eyes, the same fire that had ignited our last argument. I understand the desire for perfection, but I want you to realize that true happiness doesn't come from material things, I replied, my voice calm but firm. It's about the love and connections we have with each other, not the price tags attached to them. Please, Evelyn, let's not lose sight of what really matters. The silence that followed felt heavy, like a thick fog pressing down on us. I could see the conflict in her eyes, a whirlwind of emotions battling beneath the surface. I desperately hoped she could see my love shining through the cracks of our disagreement. Maybe I've been too focused on the wrong things, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I noticed a vulnerability in her stance, as if she were slowly letting down her guard. I just wanted everything to be perfect. It's hard to shake off the expectations. My heart swelled at her admission. I understand, sweetheart. We all face those pressures, but I need you to know that you are enough as you are, with or without the extravagant wedding. You deserve happiness that lasts beyond just one day, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I reached out, gently placing my hand on hers, hoping to bridge the gap that had widened between us. Evelyn looked down at our hands, her expression softening as she absorbed my words. I could see the walls she had built starting to crumble, and a flicker of hope ignited within me. Maybe I've let other people's opinions cloud my judgment, she confessed, her voice shaking with uncertainty. I just wanted to make everyone proud. Making people proud starts with being true to yourself, I replied, squeezing her hand gently. I want you to be happy, and I'll always be here to support you in ways that truly matter. Please, let's work together to create a day that celebrates your love, not just the spectacle. As we sat there, an understanding began to weave itself through the cracks of our relationship. I could see the realization dawn on Evelyn's face as she allowed herself to consider the possibility of reconciliation. The tension that had once felt insurmountable began to dissolve, replaced by the warmth of shared love and understanding. In that moment, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, knowing that we were taking the first steps toward healing. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a soft, warm glow around us, illuminating the path toward rebuilding our relationship. I realized that the journey wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to fight for us, for the love that had always been there, waiting to be rekindled. I took a deep breath, ready to navigate the complexities of motherhood and daughterhood with renewed strength, hopeful that our bond would emerge stronger than before. Alas de manha filtravasi pela janela, lançando brilho suave sobre a mesa de cozinha, onde eu havia passado tantas horas, preparando refeições e tentando manter a paz em minha casa. Mas hoje a atmosfera estava carregada, quase elétrica, e eu podia sentir a tensão pulsando ao meu redor. A porta de frente se abriu como rangido, trazendo sopro do ar fresco, mas também peso de ansiedade, enquanto eu me preparava para o que estava por vir. Evelyn estava ali, perto no limiar da porta, sua figura delineada pela luz do sol, mas sua expressão era sombria. As sobrancelhas franzidas e os lábios comprimidos mostravam que ela estava longe de ser a noiva radiante que eu havia imaginado. Me podíamos conversar. A voz dela estava baixa, quase hesitante, e uma parte de mim se perguntou se ela realmente compreendia a gravidade da situação. Eu sabia que não podia deixar essa conversa se transformar em campo de batalha novamente. Claro, entre, eu disse, tentando manter a calma na minha voz. A pressão em meu peito aumentou quando ela cruzou o limiar. E o aroma familiar do café recém-preparado perche contrastar como o tumulto emocional que eu estava sentindo. O peso de conversa que tínhamos que ter se instalou entre nós como uma nuvem densa. Eu percebi que talvez tenha ido longe demais com tudo isso, mas eu sou curia que meu dia fosse perfeito. Evelyn começo, a vulnerabilidade sua voz quase me pego de surpresa. E eu me lembrei de como, quando ela era pequena, costumava correr para mim como se os medos e ansiedades e agregar-se tal distante. Mas, mesmo assim, eu precisava ser firme. Evelyn, e eu entendo que qualquer que ideia special seja perfeito, mas isso não pode ver as custas de nossa relação. O qualquer está pedindo e acute real e não e acute saudável. Não posso apoiar isso. Voker tem que entender que o amor não é acute comprado e sim construído. Se Voker continuar assim, vai acabar sozinho nessa ideia e não quero isso para Voker, e eu disse sentindo a erguer-se em minha voz. Ela olhou para mim, os olhos brilhando como uma mistura de raiva e tristeza. Então Voker vai me deixar na mão, acusação sua como soco no estômago. E eu podia sentir o calor subindo ao meu rosto, a frustração se acumulando no fundo de minha garganta. Não é acute isso que estou dizendo. Eu sou quero que Voker veja que há mais a vida do que vestido caro. O que realmente importa são as pessoas ao seu redor, o amor que Voker tem uns pelos outros. Isso é acute ou que vai fazer seu dia special. Evelyn hesitou a respiração pesada, e eu podia ver que ela estava lutando internamente e a tensão não era percha quase palpável. Ela percha estar em ponto de ruptura e, por momento, eu temi que ela fosse fechar novamente. Mas o dia de minha vida se tornará pesadelo se não tiver isso. Ela gritou, e as palavras de lá reverberaram pela cozinha, intensificando o silêncio que se seguiu. E eu sei que Voker se sentia assim agora, mas eu prometo que, se Voker se concentrar no que realmente importa, Voker vai descobrir que pode ser feliz sem isso. Voker não precisa de ser vestido para ser especial, e eu respondi minha voz suave mas firme. O olhar de lá começou a mudar, e eu podia ver a luta dentro de lá, uma batalha entre a expectativa e a realidade. Porque Voker não pode simplesmente me apoiar? Foi a última pergunta de lá, e eu percebi que estávamos à beira de momento crucial. E eu precisava mostrar que o amor que sentia por ela não estava condicionado a atender suas demandas. Porque apoiar Voker não significa concordar com tudo o que Voker quer. Isso é acute uma lição que a vida vai te ensinar, e eu espero que Voker aprenda isso antes que seja tarde demais. E eu não quero perder Voker, mas também não posso me perder no processo. A expressão de la suvizuci, e por breve momento, romancix uma frase de entendimento cruzar seu rosto. O choque de nossa conversa estava começando a se dissipar, e a realização de que o amor verdadeiro não se resume a objetos materiais estava começando a se estabelecer. E eu podia sentir a tensão começando a se desfazer, e uma pequena chama de esperança brilhou dentro de mim, enquanto a possibilidade de reconciliação se tornava mais palpável. The afternoon sun slipped through the half-drawn curtains of the living room, casting a warm glow that only seemed to amplify the tension coiling in my stomach. I paced the room, my thoughts racing as I tried to formulate a strategy for what came next. The echoes of my daughter's demands rang in my ears, a persistent reminder of the conflict that had unfolded only hours before. I had spent so long trying to maintain peace, but I realized now that peace at any cost was a betrayal of my own values. I could still feel the burn of Evelyn's accusations, the way they pierced my heart. She had come to me demanding money for the dress, as if love were measured in dollars and cents. If you loved me, you would help me, she had said, and those words had become a hook lodged in my chest. I felt a surge of determination bubble up within me. I would not be reduced to a mere wallet in her pursuit of perfection. As I glanced around the living room, taking in the familiar surroundings that had witnessed countless family gatherings, I began to visualize my next steps. The coffee table, cluttered with magazines and forgotten remotes, felt like a metaphor for how disorganized our relationship had become. I took a deep breath, steeling myself mentally. I needed to approach this with both strategy and heart, balancing the scales between my love for her and the necessity of teaching her a lesson about entitlement. I walked to the kitchen table, where David and I had shared countless discussions about family dynamics. I could almost hear his voice encouraging me, reminding me that standing firm didn't mean I loved her any less. I needed to gather my thoughts, to articulate my feelings without letting my emotions dictate my actions. As I picked up a pen and notepad, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I began jotting down points, my handwriting growing increasingly more confident with each line. I knew that I had to address Evelyn's expectations head-on. I needed to make her understand that a wedding dress didn't define her worth, nor did it guarantee happiness. Instead, I envisioned a conversation where I would highlight the importance of valuing relationships over material possessions. I wanted to articulate that love was not about lavish gifts, but rather the connections and memories we forged together. As I wrote, I remembered the times when Evelyn had been a child, her face lighting up over simple pleasures, a day at the park, a homemade cake, a family movie night. Those moments had been filled with laughter and love, untouched by the pressures of social media or societal expectations. I wanted to remind her of those values, to guide her back to the essence of what truly mattered, but I also knew I had to be prepared for resistance. I could already picture the fire in her eyes, the way she would lash out in anger. It wouldn't be easy, but I had to stand my ground, even if it meant facing her disappointment once more. I felt the weight of my decisions pressing down on me, but it was a burden I was willing to carry. I would not allow myself to be a pawn in her game of entitlement. After finishing my notes, I took a moment to collect my thoughts, trying to quell the storm of emotions swirling within me. I envisioned myself sitting across from her, my voice steady as I calmly laid out my perspective. With each passing moment, I felt more determined to reclaim my dignity and assert my boundaries. This was not just about a wedding dress, it was about instilling values that would serve her for a lifetime. As I stood up from the table, a sense of purpose surged through me. I had to approach this confrontation with love, but also with the strength of conviction. I would show Evelyn that love meant setting boundaries, that sometimes it meant saying no for her own good. I would not allow her to see me as disposable. This would be the turning point, a moment where I would reclaim my role as her mother, not just her financial provider. In that moment, I committed myself to the task ahead. I would face my daughter not with anger, but with the resolve of a woman who understood the consequences of actions and the importance of mutual respect. This was my chance to guide her back to the core of what truly mattered, and I would not back down. The path forward may be fraught with challenges, but I was ready to navigate it with love and strength. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would reclaim my voice and hopefully restore our bond. The wedding venue buzzed with excitement, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. Bright banners adorned the entrance, and flowers burst with color, sweet scents mingling in the air, yet all I felt was the weight of my heart, heavy with dread. I clutched the fabric of my dress, its texture rough against my palms, grounding me as I prepared to face Evelyn. Today was supposed to be a celebration, but in my chest a battle raged, one that demanded resolution. As I stepped into the main hall, the music echoed through the air, laughter and chatter creating a symphony of joy that felt foreign to my ears. I could see guests milling about, sipping champagne and exchanging pleasantries, yet all I could focus on was my daughter, radiant in her wedding gown, the very embodiment of entitlement I had fought against. My heart raced as I approached, the sounds around me fading into the background, and I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. "Evelyn, can we talk?" I managed to say, my voice barely rising above the din. She turned, her eyes narrowing as she regarded me with a mixture of defiance and hurt. The flicker of recognition in her gaze was almost tangible, a reminder of our tumultuous past. "Not now, Mom. It's my wedding day," she snapped, her words sharp as shards of glass. In that moment I felt the sting of her rejection, yet I was resolute. This conversation had become unavoidable. "I know it's your special day, sweetheart, but this can't wait," I pressed, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. I could see David watching from a distance, his supportive presence a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the storm that threatened to break between us. Evelyn rolled her eyes, her frustration palpable. "What could possibly be so important? You've already ruined everything by refusing to help me with the dress." Her words cut deep, and I felt the anger rising in my chest, a fire igniting within me. "I did not ruin anything. You have to understand that love is not about material things." I shot back, my voice rising as I fought to maintain my composure. The guests around us began to notice the tension, their laughter fading into whispers. I felt exposed, my heart racing as I confronted the reality of our fractured relationship. "You think that dress will define your happiness, but it won't," I continued, my voice trembling with emotion. "What matters is the love you share with your partner, the memories you create together, not the price tag attached to a piece of fabric." For a moment, Evelyn stood there, her expression shifting from anger to confusion. I could see the gears turning in her mind, the conflict warring within her as she wrestled with my words. I seized the moment, stepping closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "You are so much more than that dress, Evelyn. You have to believe that," I implored, my voice softer now, laced with the desperation of a mother who had fought for her daughter's happiness. "But everyone will judge me," she finally exclaimed, her voice wavering with unshed tears. "They'll think I'm not good enough." The vulnerability in her tone pierced through the walls I had built around my heart. I stepped back, allowing the weight of her words to settle between us, realizing that this was not just about the dress. It was about her fear of inadequacy. "Sweetheart, they don't define your worth. You are enough just as you are, and you have to embrace that," I pleaded, my heart aching for her. I reached out, my hand brushing against her arm in a gesture of understanding, hoping to create a bridge between us. "This day should be about you and your happiness, not about the expectations of others." Evelyn's defenses began to crumble as she looked down, her shoulders slumping under the weight of her emotions. The tension in the room shifted, and I could see the flicker of realization dawn in her eyes. I've been so caught up in what everyone else thinks that I forgot what truly matters. I just wanted everything to be perfect, she whispered, her voice trembling. Perfection is an illusion, my love. It's the love and connection you share with your partner that will make this day truly special, I said softly, my heart swelling with hope. I took a step closer, feeling the warmth of her presence, and I could sense that we were on the brink of something significant. In that moment, the noise of the wedding faded into the background, and it felt as though we were the only two people in the room. I could see the tears shimmering in her eyes, a reflection of the turmoil she had been battling. I don't want to lose you, Mom, she confessed, her voice breaking as she finally looked at me. I need you to be proud of me. My heart soared at her admission, and I stepped forward, enveloping her in a tight embrace. I am proud of you always, but it's time to let go of the fear that has been holding you back. This is your day, and it should be a celebration of love, not a competition for validation. As we held each other, I felt the weight of our past begin to lift, replaced by a renewed understanding of the love that had always connected us. The laughter and music swelled around us, a beautiful backdrop to our moment of reconciliation. I felt a warmth spreading through my heart, a promise that our relationship could heal, that we could rebuild the trust that had been fractured. Evelyn pulled back, wiping her tears with the back of her hand, a hesitant smile breaking through. Thank you for always being there, even when I didn't see it, she murmured, her voice no longer filled with bitterness. I smiled back, feeling the warmth of the moment wrap around us like a comforting embrace. Let's make this day about the love that brought us here, not the pressures that tried to pull us apart, I said, my heart finally at ease. As we turned to face the crowd, I felt a sense of resolution wash over me, a commitment to nurture the bond between us, to forge a future built on love, understanding, and respect. In that moment, the wedding wasn't just Evelyn's day, it was a new beginning for both of us, a celebration of our journey towards healing and connection. As we stepped into the light of the day, I knew that together we could navigate whatever challenges lay ahead, hand in hand, hearts open, ready to embrace the love that truly mattered. In the weeks following the wedding, the air in our home felt lighter, yet a cautious tension lingered, like the aftermath of a storm. I often found myself in the kitchen, the familiar sense of baking bread and simmering sauces wrapping around me like an old blanket. Each meal became a ritual, a way to reconnect with my thoughts and emotions, and to reflect on how much had changed. Evelyn and I had finally begun to communicate more openly, and the walls that had once separated us were slowly being dismantled, brick by brick. One evening, as I stirred a pot of chicken soup, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The warmth of the kitchen contrasted sharply with the chill of uncertainty that had gripped me for so long. I recalled our last conversation at the wedding, the way Evelyn's eyes had softened as she began to understand my perspective. I had seen a flicker of the daughter I once knew, the little girl who would cling to my leg and ask for stories about princesses and castles. It was a reminder of the love that had always existed beneath the surface, waiting to be rediscovered. David joined me, leaning against the counter with a soft smile. "You've been in a good mood lately," he remarked, his voice warm and reassuring. I chuckled lightly, meeting his gaze. "I'm trying to focus on the positives, David. Evelyn and I are working through things. It's not perfect, but we're getting there." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's all you can do, Michelle. Relationships are a journey, and sometimes they require a detour to find the right path." His words resonated with me, and I felt a sense of gratitude for his support throughout this tumultuous period. It was as if he had been my anchor, keeping me grounded in the storm of emotions that had threatened to overwhelm me. Just then, the front door creaked open, and I turned to see Evelyn stepping inside, her face flushed from the cool evening air. She smiled shyly, her demeanor more relaxed than I had seen in weeks. "Hey, Mom, I brought dessert," she called out, holding up a box of pastries from our favorite bakery. My heart swelled with affection at the simple gesture, a sign that she was making an effort to reconnect. "That sounds wonderful. Come help me with dinner," I replied, my voice filled with warmth. As we moved around the kitchen together, I felt the rhythm of our old dynamic returning. We chatted about mundane things, school, work, and the upcoming holidays. It was refreshing to hear her laughter again, a sound that had been sorely missed in our home. As we sat down to eat, I watched her, taking in the small changes that had emerged since the wedding. There was a newfound maturity in her demeanor, a realization that perhaps material possessions weren't the key to happiness. I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me, the remnants of our past struggles beginning to fade. After dinner, we cleared the table together, our movements synchronized in a way that felt natural. I could see the lightness in her eyes, a stark contrast to the weight of entitlement that had once clouded her judgment. As we stacked the dishes in the sink, she turned to me, her expression serious. "Mom, I've been thinking a lot about what you said at the wedding. I realize now that I let the pressure get to me. I'm sorry for how I acted." Her apology felt like a balm to my heart, soothing the wounds that had festered for so long. I reached out, squeezing her hand gently. I appreciate that, Evelyn. It means a lot to me. I want you to know that I love you and I'll always support you, but I need you to understand the values that come with that support. It's not just about the big moments, it's about the love and respect we have for each other every day. Evelyn nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I know, and I want to do better. I've been so focused on the wedding that I lost sight of what really matters. I want to make our relationship a priority again. Her words resonated deeply within me, filling the space between us with a warmth I had longed for. As we stood there hand in hand, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. The journey had been difficult, but it had also been transformative. We had both learned invaluable lessons about love, respect, and the importance of communication. I knew that we still had a long way to go, but in that moment I felt hopeful for the future we could build together. In the calm that followed the storm of our past, I found solace in the little things that had once felt trivial. The kitchen, once a battlefield of emotions, now echoed with laughter and comfort. I cherished the moments spent with Evelyn, our conversations no longer laced with tension but filled with understanding and warmth. The air was thick with the aroma of freshly baked cookies, a sweet reminder of the bond we were rebuilding. I often thought back to the lessons learned through our struggles, the importance of respect and love that transcended material desires. Each day was a step toward healing, a testament to the resilience of our relationship. As I stood by the window, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I reflected on the journey we had taken together. The road had been fraught with challenges, yet it had led us to a place of deeper connection and appreciation for one another. I realized that love was not just about the big gestures but was woven into the fabric of everyday life, in the simple acts of kindness and support we offered each other. It was a reminder that we could emerge stronger from our trials, growing together rather than apart. I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me, knowing that we had both learned to navigate the complexities of our relationship with grace and patience. The future felt bright, filled with possibilities as we embraced the love that had always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. I wanted to share this journey with others, to inspire those who might find themselves in similar struggles. If you've enjoyed this story and want to follow along for more, be sure to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell.